going to discuss environment, and in the previous class we discussed that how subjects are interlinked. So environment can be studied in the Department of Natural Science, but this is also a concern for social scientists, for political scientists, for international relations scholar, for economists, for anthropologists, for sociologists, for political scientists, for policy makers, for public administration scholars. So this subject which we are studying in this semester is interdisciplinary. It is not based on pure natural science. We are also using tools from social science, and we are looking at your environment issue. There are two key words in your paper: governance, management, and natural resources. There is a term called governance, and you might be thinking that how government word is different from governance. What has happened that in last 20 to 30 years, the term governance has become more popular instead of government. And there is a professor in JNU, Kuldeep Mathur, retired professor. He wrote a book, a small book, which was printed by NBT, National Book Trust, which is very close to your university also. The book is called Government to Governance. I will give you the reading so that you understand what do you mean by governance. But whatever I recall, governance means that when a state is not the central and key and major player in deciding policies about development. So we have to keep in mind the earlier political economy before 1990. Our economy, means Indian economy, was based on Nehruvian socialist model. Okay. After 1990, our economy got reformed, and we adopted, India adopted the policy of liberalization, globalization and privatization. So what is globalization? Can anybody say? Anybody can define what is globalization? Have you heard the name globalization? What is globalization?
Globalization is basically when, with the advancement of technologies, how different countries in different parts of, in different continents have been able to connect to each other.
Right.
For the trade economy.
Right.
For the trade of, let's say, petroleum, electricity, energy.
Okay.
Or other products and services.
Okay.
And how news is also being able to travel much faster.
Okay. So she is right. She is not wrong. She is right. She is saying that with the advancement of technology, trades are happening at much larger scale and economy is being integrated. Am I right? Yes. Jagdish Bhagwati wrote a book in defense of globalization. In defense of globalization, he is a big supporter of globalization. I will share with you a chapter which Professor Jagdish Bhagwati has written on environment. I will give you in the next reading. Okay, I will give you in the next class. So the Jagdish Bhagwati has defined globalization, and what she has said, I think both converge here. Globalization according to Jagdish Bhagwati is integration of national economy with international economy. So economies are integrated, okay, and trade are happening at a much larger and faster speed, and this much basic economics everybody knows that earlier our model was socialist, where the government tried to substitute import. In other words, we were India before 1990 was based on socialist economy, where import was not much liked. The thrust was to develop national economy, and tariff was put so that the foreign goods should not flood Indian market, and it may have negative impact on Indian manufacturers. This was the earlier understanding, and the state was very central player. State was very central player. Okay, you might have heard Indira Gandhi doing nationalization of bank in 1975 or something, when emergency was there. Okay, so she was trying to nationalize the bank. But after 1990, the globalization had changed the situation very much, and earlier the state was planning everything as far as development is concerned, as far as policies are concerned. You might have heard 5-year plan. So the government was planning everything. Now the 5-year plan and planning commission has been replaced with Niti Aayog. Now the planning commission office is no longer active. Instead of this planning commission, the new regime has opened Niti Aayog. So there is a change in focus. Earlier, the sole authority or the major authority of development was a state, but liberal scholars believed that it has led to corruption. If privatization is promoted, if private players are encouraged, if laws are made trade friendly, if multinational companies are invited, if there is trans-border cooperation in trade and technology, when we open our economy, then our economy will grow at much faster speed than the earlier understanding that closed the door. Okay. So the term governance refers to the shift in economic policies after globalization. So the governance means a state is not the sole or major authority as far as planning and development is concerned, because a state was looked at by the scholars of globalization, the supporters of globalization, negatively, and nobody is saying that a state has no role. But those who are supporter of governance model, they are basically talking about that there is also players like market, NGOs, civil societies. So they all come together to make policies. A state should not be the central authority. So governance model, instead of government, criticizes the authority of a state as the sole player. Governance model does not say we do not want a state. They are not saying like that. Apart from a state, we also need to have NGOs, markets, civil society, participation of the people, transparency. So this is called governance. So you understand that when we say governance, this term is basically linked to new economic model. So your paper is called governance and management in natural resources. So you have studied at university, maybe you become professor after couple of years, or you may join some research institute, you may join some NGOs. So your opinions are also important as far as making policies are concerned, and your paper is also very much linked with the process of globalization also, because globalization has changed the lifestyle, economy, politics, everything. So if the same paper, if it were taught, let's say 30 years ago, the content might have been very different. But today, you cannot ignore globalization. Globalization will be there. Any subject, if you are studying, the factor of globalization is to be kept in mind. So the globalization means that global economy is integrated, trade is happening, there is exchange of technology, and there is migration of people also. And you might have seen that in Gurgaon or maybe in Noida, major multinational companies have set up their offices, and Indians are working in large number in service sector. Am I right? They work, maybe your relatives, your friends might be working there. Globalization has also resulted in exploitation of resources, natural resources, in a big way. And there is also a debate that whether environmental issues can be addressed without critiquing globalization. Some people would say that globalization, if the process of globalization continues, the economic crisis will remain. We cannot solve it. But there is another scholar who is saying no, globalization per se is not bad. Globalization per se is not bad. We have to regulate. Okay, if companies are creating pollution, and if you try to tackle those pollutions, and if we make rules so that pollution can be controlled, then growth can also happen, and environment can also be protected. So there is no need to throw baby with the bath. This is the argument. But on the other hand, the Marxist scholar, the radical scholar, say that globalization is nothing but it is another form of capitalism. You understand? And the degradation of environment started with capitalist development. So unless this capitalist mode of development, the capitalist mode of economy is not critiqued, not changed, things will not improve. And I was reading this globalization of world politics, in which there is a line that if we start follow the Western model of lifestyles, if non-Western people start following the Western way of life, then we need to have at least 3 planets. So this is also a big criticism of the lifestyle which the advanced modern world is adopting. You have seen how much garbage we produce in a day. What is our lifestyle? We have in our house refrigerator, car, AC, and how much we are contributing to global warming. So basically there is also a critique of modern lifestyle. So these issues which I am talking about, yes, these issues which I am talking about, they are all interrelated. Yes, please tell me.
Sir, going back a bit to the globalization.
Okay.
So the regime or the government, right? Going a little back to the government as well. So the globalization model actually somewhere saw the government as a factor of hindrance.
Yes. So hindrance in a say, see, the argument is not that kill government. See, the argument is involve other players also. Market, civil society, these are also important players. You might have heard the term public-private partnership. This is also coming out of globalization and governance model. The understanding is that if government becomes the sole authority, then corruption will come, because political parties and other vested interests will become the sole authority, the sole policy makers. So instead of only government, there has to be the participation of market, civil society and government. Suppose this is government, okay, this is market, this is civil society. So they will all come together. You understand? They will all come together. So suppose the university where we are studying, it is not a government university now. So earlier what was the model? That only government, only Sarkari school will be there. So basically the government's model is that let's bring about let's encourage the participation of people also, and encourage those who are good at business and trade, those who are entrepreneur, encourage them, don't discourage them, don't tax them too much. Yes.
So what are the drivers? Like you talked about the need of expanding the loop and the control panel basically. So what actually drives that? What drives this thought as far as the global?
Yes. Those who are supporters of globalization, like Professor Jagdish Bhagwati, I will give you the reading. We will discuss in the next class. He teaches at Columbia University. So the Jagdish Bhagwati would argue that the earlier socialist economy, okay, it will not lead to any growth. It has not done any much growth, okay. It has created some kind of corruption, some kind of stagnation, and those who are entrepreneurs, they were not encouraged. In fact, they were taxed too much, okay. So why government or why ministers and bureaucrats should decide everything, something like that. If you read, you will find that now when the government makes some standing committee, they also now the government post globalization. So government also includes some private players also to decide the policies. You understand? There is a Birla committee. There is so many corporate players have also played very decisive role to decide how education should be there. So the governance model is, don't look at business negatively, okay. Include them, make them participant also. But the socialist model would argue that those people who are doing business, those people who are doing, let's say, owning factories and running factories, if they are not checked, if they are not controlled, then what will happen? That exploitation of the workers will happen. So there are two models. The one model, the socialist model, is that the capitalist will exploit the workers, okay. So either they have to kept away, or at least they should be controlled. But there is another model that which is called, let's say, the capitalist model, which believes that no, capitalists are not bad, they are good for the growth. So the government needs to encourage them for the trade, for the growth. The laws should be made easy for them. So these are two different paradigms I am talking about. Yes.
So in a way we can say that globalization, the whole need or requirement for globalization came about from the fact that we need an economy. Every country's sole motive for growth is economy. Growth is seen in terms of development. So we can say that the market is a driver for globalization.
Yes, the market is a key player. Yeah. So there is also a debate in globalization also, that the capacity of the state, there is a term called sovereignty. What is it called? Sovereignty. Suppose if I say I am sovereign in this university, it means that I am most powerful, something like that. So sovereignty means a state is most powerful in its juridical area, okay, in its geographical area. Suppose Indian government is most powerful in India, okay. So there is also a debate in globalization paper, had sovereignty of the state eroded, has been eroded by the market forces. Because today if government wants to make some policies, it cannot make policy on its own. There are also many major players also. It cannot say, oh, private university will be closed from tomorrow. It is no longer possible. It cannot say, oh, Google, go away from here. Okay, we don't need YouTube, because on YouTube people are uploading videos which is criticizing government. So they have become very powerful, and I am telling you, we also study in political science the role of multinational companies, MNCs. They have become very powerful. Google, Twitter is creating opinion. Twitter is having major say as far as electoral campaign is concerned. Facebook, I will give you, suppose regime A is in power, and if you write content which is critical of regime A, there is a chance that your content will not be sent to many people. And if you write in favor of regime A, which is in power, it will be circulated widely. So we have also seen it. And if tomorrow government changes, then the content which was promoted today may not be promoted next time, and something which is suppressed right now may be widely circulated. The point I am trying to say, that multinational companies, they have become very, very powerful. You understand? And anything, if you talk about environment, we have to also keep in mind their role also. So some scholars will say that the problem is there because of them, because they are exploiting the resources. You understand? But on the other hand, those who are supporters of the market, they are saying the problem is not with the market. The problem is not with the capitalist class. The problem lies with regulation. Regulate it. If any company is creating any pollution, then make them accountable. Okay? Don't say that capitalism is bad. Yes, you were saying something.
These companies are so powerful, then why are we giving so much right to them for decision policy?
If these companies are so powerful, then
why are we involving them? Like, why are we giving more power to them? They're already so powerful.
yes, you are right. See, in 1970s, there was a debate. Democratize economic order, the world economic order. Democratize the world economic order. You can write new economic order. There was a debate in 60s and 70s. There were many scholars, particularly from African regions, okay, they have, and Latin American regions, they have studied global trade, okay, and they have argued new economic order. So scholars, activists from South means non-developed regions, okay, Asia, Africa, Latin America, these scholars argued in 1960s and 70s that the economic order at international level, if you study them, you will find that the Western countries are developed and non-Western countries who are South, okay, they are underdeveloped, and they have argued differently, but the larger argument is this, that underdevelopment of the South is not the result of South, okay. The development of North has created the underdevelopment of the South. That was very prominent debate in 1960s and 70s. Even you understand the United Nations. In United Nations, the number of developing country is more than the number of developed countries. Am I right? So the developing countries were very vocal in talking about their own rights, okay, that we are backward countries, okay, and there are several scholars who has given the concept dependency theory, okay. So the dependency theory argues like this, that development of the West has created underdevelopment for the South. You understand? So those debates were there, you ask me. Those debates were very prominent in 60s and 70s, okay? But after 70s, what has happened? That the global economy underwent a change, and the socialist regime, the socialist thinking, okay, that declined. And Russia or Soviet Union, which was a power, Soviet Union also declined around 1990. So what has happened that after 1990s, the only model which is presented as successful model is capitalism, okay? And there is a scholar Fukuyama, okay, who wrote a book in 1990, around 1990, after the end of Cold War. You understand what is Cold War? After the Second World War, the world politics got divided into two blocks. The capitalist forces were led by America and developed European countries, and the socialist camp was led by USSR, okay? And they had tension after the end of the Second World War till 1990. That period scholars have called Cold War. Why Cold War? Why not hot war? Can anybody say why not hot war? Cold War, because Russia and America, okay, they did not have direct conflict, okay. They were more proxy in nature. You understand what is proxy? Proxy means, suppose if I have problem with you, what is your name? Sohini. And if I take, let's say, gun, and if I come before her and say that I want to fight with you, then that is not proxy war, okay? You can say actual war or direct confrontation, but I don't like her. And if I will tell you, okay, if tomorrow she comes to class, pull her chair. Okay. And then you pull the chair, and so how will she come to know that it was me who asked you to pull the chair? So something which was more like a conspiracy, proxy, winning alliances, doing this and that. That is why it was called Cold War. Okay. There was no direct confrontation between two powers. Okay. But they were on the verge of having war. But war did not break out. Okay. So after the end of the Cold War, coming back to your question, Fukuyama and other people wrote book, and they have presented globalization and capitalism, liberal democracy as only successful model, because the socialist economy declined. And that is why Indian economy, which was mixed economy till 1990. What do you mean by mixed economy? Yes, you tell me. What is this mixed? Mixed means very simple, mixed means Indian economic model was neither truly socialist, not it was truly capitalist. It had elements from both of them. For example, the socialist model is known for major public sectors owned by the government, major industry owned by government. So you might have heard public sectors, okay, big Navratnas, these sectors, and your parents, your relatives might have been working there also, okay. So the major industries were under the control of government. So the government owned major sectors, and they were called public sectors. The second thing was nationalization of banks. Banks were not private, there were private banks, but the major banks were government. They were nationalized, okay. The government played major role as far as removing poverty is concerned, giving jobs, opening schools, giving health facility, okay. So and then Indian economy also had planning commission. What is planning commission in very simple term? Planning economy is part of socialist economy, where you plan. Market will not decide what to sell and what not to sell. We plan it. Suppose, for example, suppose this is planning commission's team. So we will come to Delhi, we will visit this area and we will see, okay, here schools are not available, poor people are here, okay. So we make a policy that in Delhi, in slum areas, in 5 years we will open schools, okay. So our motive is not earning profit. We are not thinking about how much money we will get from them. We have at the back of our mind welfare of the people. If schools are opened, then poor people will send their children, and if they become educated, then the country will grow. If only private schools are available, then the daughters and the sons of, let's say, rag pickers and the workers, they will never go to school and illiteracy will remain. So the socialist model was based on the idea of developing skills of the people, giving free education, free health facility, even AIMS, if you go to AIMS, okay. So the doctor do not ask you to pay the fees, okay. So these were all the socialist model. Land reforms also. You might have heard the planning. Land reforms means a person who has got more land, okay, more than what is required for a family, there is a limit put that how much land you can own, and the rest of the land will be distributed to those who are landless. So the land reforms policies were also taken by Nehru. How far it was successful, that we can discuss. So these are all called socialist model. And what is capitalist model? We also had private industries, okay. It was not that private industries were closed. So the India also had private players, private factories, private business, private industries also, private schools also, private hotels also, private factories also. So our economy was it has both the elements, socialist and capitalist also. So it is called mixed economy. But after 1990, what has happened? That since the socialist bloc has declined, so those who are in favor of capitalist model of development, they became very powerful. You understand? Suppose this is a class and this group of scholars want capitalist model, and this group of scholars want socialist model, and suppose I am teacher, so I have to make a balance between both of you, okay. But suppose this socialist model, they all die, so I am left with only you. So your influence on me will be bigger or lesser? More. That is why I am telling you that at international level, particularly after the decline of the Soviet Union, the socialist bloc, in international politics, in world economy, there is the dominance of liberal democracy capitalist model. And again, we should go back to 1960s and 70s. The scholars from the south, from the poorer regions, they criticize the Western countries by saying that, okay, earlier we were colony, okay, you were colonial masters, okay, we were colonized, and we struggled hard for our freedom, and finally after a lot of sacrifice we become free, okay. But we have got only political freedom. We got only political freedom. For example, suppose this is let's say country A, and suppose the outsiders have come and they have captured it. So suppose I have fought war and then my country become, let's say, free. The foreign power has gone over. But the computer which I am operating, all the softwares are being controlled by the players who have been driven out. The electricity, the technology, they all own it. So the argument was that even if we have got political freedom, the economic resources, technology, these are all controlled by the Western forces. So unless those domains are democratized, there is no meaning of this political independence. You understand my point? So what has happened that in 1970s, those debates for democratizing economy, world economy, transfer of technology from the advanced region to the poorer region, those issues were not carried forward much. You understand? And then what has happened, the socialist model declined, it failed. So the balance of power shifted, changed in favor of liberal democracy, capitalist model. So this is the major factor, political factor, that the model governance started coming. Okay, and the governance model somehow is based on what? Based on capitalist model, where you have to involve private players, you have to involve civil society members, NGOs. Government will not be the sole authority. And this model is also against centralization of power. It is also against nationalization of economy. You understand? And the socialist model is what? Nationalization of economy. You understand what is nationalization of economy? Nationalization of economy means, suppose this is playground. So we all go and we all can play. Okay. Tomorrow what has happened? The C started saying, this land belongs to my father. Okay. Here is a paper, and C brings police wala, and tomorrow it is closed. So it becomes private property. Earlier what was it? It was common. I have written somewhere.
Yes, third last.
Governing the commons. Above security. Sir, third
At the
last.
bottom.
Governing the common. Common means that everybody can go and can have say there. They are equal participants there. So the common has been monopolized. And when we talk about nationalization, it is somehow reclaiming those private ownership into common ownership. Railway is nationalized. So even if you are paying little more for your AC ticket, that money you are contributing somehow so that the poor people can get a cheap ticket as far as a passenger train is concerned. You understand? So the money is not owned by the railway minister. Okay. Money is not owned by the government of the day. It is public's money. Okay. And there is also the system of making a budget. How much money government is going to spend on infrastructure on the railway, how much money has been earned, how much money is going to be spent. So the nationalization of economy is very much part of the socialist model. But here, instead of the nationalization of economy, what is happening? Public-private partnership model is being promoted under governance. Public-private partnership means that, okay, I'll give you one example. Suppose government wants to give, let's say, free meal to, let's say, this is school, to the poor people. Okay. So the one model would be, the socialist model will be that the government will hire a cook, the government will hire somebody who will buy, let's say, utensils and grains, and here khichdi will be made and khichdi will be given to, let's say, children. Okay. But the public-private model would be there that no, government has no role to hire somebody, let's say, cook or make khichdi. Maybe that there is a private player caterer, let's say, Raj caterer. Okay. So the government will make a contract with the Raj caterer. Okay. And it will say, Raj caterer, how much money will you take for serving one person with khichdi? It will say 30 rupees. Okay. So we need to give 1,000 plates to every day to children in the schools. It will say, oh, this much money is there. So this is called private-public partnership. That government is not doing everything on its own. it is also bringing private players in the development model. You understand? They should also be brought in, and the supporters of this model would argue that if the private players will be brought, let's say, in this process, that efficiency will be achieved, it will be much easier, it will be better. But the critics of this model would say that no, if the private players will come, then what will happen, that prices will go up, okay, and then the profit will be taken by individuals. And if the government makes khichdi and if the government spends everything, then everything is owned by people. You understand? So the big issue in this environment debate is common. Always remember common. Common means land, rivers, mountains, a pond, everything earlier in the nature, it was not the private property of anybody. You understand? It was not there, it was not the private property of anybody. But slowly what is happening, that these lands are being monopolized by big players. So you are, let's say, you are a member of middle class social group. So the best you can do to buy one flat or maybe a small house. But much more than what you can do, the bigger multinational companies, the bigger players, they are buying thousands of acres of land, okay? They are getting contract from the government to cut the trees, to do minings. So these are also very important concerns as far as environment paper is concerned. Commons have been appropriated and the private players are now owning the commons. If you read Marx, you know Karl Marx. Karl Marx was big thinker, okay? He was a philosopher. He was the major ideologue of Marxism. He has written in his book Capital. Capital is 3-volume book, that how in the England with the coming of capitalist development, the earlier the commons where people were there, they were all doing all kinds of activities, they were slowly enclosed. And in Adivasi area, you will be surprised to know that when Britishers came, they saw that people are taking let's say products from the jungle, okay, from the trees, doing slash and burning, leaving this place. So there was no idea of property, okay, this book belongs to me, okay. There was no idea of property. Things were owned by everybody. You understand? Things were owned by everybody. So the Britishers brought two policies: permanent settlement. So the permanent settlement means that land would be handed over to private players, okay, zamindar. They will cultivate and they will give a fixed amount of tax, fixed amount in tax, and the rest of the money or the rest of the grain, the zamindar will keep it for themselves. So what has happened, that in this permanent settlement, the landlords emerged as a class and the lands were alienated, okay. The lands from the Adivasis area got transferred into the landlords who were mostly outsiders. So the point is that environmental issue can only be understood if you keep in mind commons, how commons are being appropriated, how commons are being snatched, and if commons are not protected, see, then the world will be finished. And one thing I am telling you, commons have two dimensions, within the nation state and outside the nation state also. Suppose in India there are many forests, so who will own the forest? So the government can decide or people can decide. But in international politics, there is a much bigger problem. If you take the map of India like this, there is also sea, okay. The sea may not be sea, then there is also fish, then there is a space, atmosphere, okay. So one country cannot claim to own everything. So there are multiple claims also. So these are also very important factors. The fight in the, let's say, in the sea, you might have seen that this country is making base here, that country is making base there, China is going there, India is going there. You have seen it also in the South Asia also. So your environment paper which we are talking about, we will focus both aspects, commons within India and commons outside India also. And international politics and environment is much serious and much complex issue. You know why? Because in international politics there is no world government. Okay, there is anarchy. Do you know? Have you heard the term anarchy? What is anarchy? Anarchy. Suppose anarchy means what?
So absence of a power that governs.
Yes, you are right. Anarchy means ki there is no government. Okay, there is no rule, there is no pattern. You are free to do anything. Okay. So at international level, you will see that there is no world government, and resources are also there outside the so-called boundary of your country. So there is also big fight for that also. And one thing we have to also keep in mind, that environment is not a local problem. It is local problem, yes. It is regional problem, yes. It is national problem, yes. But much more than that, it is international issue. If river is polluted, you are not affecting the life of people in Delhi, but you are also polluting, you are also affecting the life of people who live far away from Delhi. So you might have seen conflict over water. India, Pakistan also had conflict, let's say, Indus Valley Treaty, you understand? We also had differences with, let's say, Bangladesh also. So many, every country, many countries are fighting over the resources also. So in this way, you are not only the students of, let's say, natural science, you have to also keep in mind the international dimension also. You make dam, and dam is celebrated in the city. Okay, dam gives electricity, electricity creates development, and development makes India strong. But have you seen dam? How many of you have seen dam? You have seen none. I was recently in Jharkhand. I saw a dam, okay, on Jharkhand-Bengal border. And on the one side of the dam, I saw water as if it were sea. Okay. On the other side of the dam, even a glass of water was not there. Yes. Okay, time is up. You can go see. There is a rule in this class. Please come, please go, no need to ask. Ask, okay? Feel free. So you may leave it. You may leave it. No problem. Do you have a class? Okay, just 2 minutes, I will finish. 2 minutes. So the dam is affecting the life of everybody. What is the, you tell me, this side of the dam, thousands and lakhs of fish were living, okay. Why you have killed them? You tell me. And the dam, I think you know it better. If dam is made, there is a chance of earthquake also. Is it right? I have read in the story also that a dam, creation of dam, it also affects negatively the plate also, and it may create some kind of earthquake also. It's not good, I am telling you. In Bihar, you have seen the flood all the time. You will see that in rainy season, flood will be there. And you know what is the problem with the flood? A big scholar has said, the less you manage the dam, the less you manage the river, the least problem it will create. The more you manage, it will, more problem will be created. So your paper is very much interdisciplinary. You cannot think what is happening in Delhi in isolation. What is happening in Delhi is linked with what is happening in Punjab and what is happening in Himachal and what is even happening in Europe also. So that is why environment, politics, globalization, overuse of the resources, global environment, governance, climate change, sustainable development. You know what is sustainable development? Sustainable development means that you use resources in such a way that the coming generation may not be deprived of the resources. At least two ways to look at environmental issue. One way would be the liberal approach, that let's have institution, let's have international bodies, let's chalk out, let's plan how pollution is created, factor in pollution issue, and if you compensate, if you try to manage well, okay, if you make good laws, then growth will also happen and pollution can also be controlled. But there is another group, radical group, Marxist, they will say no बाबा, जब तक कैपिटलिज्म है तब तक दुनिया में आपको इन्वायरमेंट प्रॉब्लम होंगे ही होंगे, क्योंकि द बेसिक प्रॉब्लम कैपिटलिज्म के साथ है कि अनलेस यू एक्सप्लॉइट रिसोर्सेज, जब तक आप एक्सप्लॉइट नहीं करोगे रिसोर्सेज को, the profit cannot be made. Profit is not made by the fact that you have building and you have, let's say, AC and you have infrastructure. You make profit because you own natural resources at throwaway prices. Don't think that this issue is isolated. Everything on this earth which is being talked about, history, politics, geography, international relations, economics, anthropology, everything is linked. Everything is linked. आप सोच ही नहीं सकते, आप नहीं सोच. You go to lab, you test everything, you have those skills, I don't know. So these are your advantages. But what I am trying to do, I am trying to show you some other realities also.